So welcome to the Barrett channel, welcome to another video. First off, there was a number of comments that I needed to get a haircut, so yesterday I went and got a haircut. You'll notice it's much shorter now. Secondly, a huge thank you to all those people who have supported the channel with Buy Me a Coffee. Big thank you to you people, and thank you for everybody who supports our channel and watches it. Okay, the title of today's video, or the theme of today's video, is about the Chinese stealing technology and intellectual property from Western companies. They steal our products. This is a quote from an American politician, Kamala Harris. Stealing our intellectual property. This is a quote from an American politician, Joe Biden. The Chinese government has pulled off the greatest theft in the history of the world. This is a quote from the President of the USA, Donald Trump. But actually, all these quotes are really not true. For many years, China's economy has been growing 3 times faster than that of America. In that time, China has built factories, it's invested in people, it's invested in infrastructure, it's invested in technology. In that same time, America have spent billions and billions of dollars fighting around the world. First trying to defeat the former Soviet Union. Second, later on, sort of waging wars in many different countries of the world, trying to install what they call their flavor of democracy, American democracy. So much of China's success has been down to their socialist/capitalist government. Over the last 20 years, they've lifted the living standards of a huge amount of people. Hundreds of millions of people have seen their living standard increase. This is in stark contrast to America, where the living standard for most people has pretty much stood still, and some would argue that has even decreased in certain cases. As the Chinese people became wealthier and the Chinese internal market got bigger, in fact today there are hundreds of millions of Chinese people who are considered to be middle class. But as this started to happen, many American and Western companies really wanted a piece of the action. As well as wanting a piece of the action, they wanted access to the swathes of cheap labor that was available in China. This was so they could make their products cheaper, make more profit, and generate more money for their shareholders. However, for this, China was not just going to hand American and Western companies this on a plate for free. In exchange for these Western companies having access to this huge cheap workforce within China, well, the cost of that deal was that any companies entering the Chinese market wanting to use that labor need to either have a joint venture with a Chinese company or have some transfer of the technology to those companies. And the Western companies were quite happy to do this in the beginning, because they just were so eager to use this cheap labor and get into the Chinese market. But later, as China started matching America on one technology after another, this is when all the sort of accusations started coming that they're stealing our technology, they're stealing our IP, it's unfair, XYZ, bala bala bala. This has happened over the last 5 years, where many American companies have accused China of stealing their technology, stealing their IP. And actually, these Western American companies, they were quite happy to do these deals. Nobody forced them. They were more than willing to give the information so they could enter the Chinese market. They could have turned the deal down, but they didn't, because they were so caught up in how much extra money they could make and having access to that huge internal market. Yes, of course Chinese companies steal intellectual property, but actually that's no different to any other country around the world. Back in the old days, they would recruit people and go and get them to work in companies to conduct industrial espionage, and every country did that. In fact, at any time, just take the USA for example. At any time, there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of lawsuits going on in all the states across America and many other Western countries to do with, intellectual property theft. Really, it's not something that's just unique to China. Why Western companies think it's only China that do this, I really don't understand, but it's absolutely not. Every country, pretty much everywhere. One of the main reasons in the last sort of 5 to 10 years is that it's moved to electronic theft as opposed to the sort of traditional kind of espionage. So companies are hacking into each other's computer systems as opposed to sending people into companies to get that information. And in 2008, Western capital systems suffered a major financial crisis. This made the authorities in China really think about their market. Up until that point, their economy was very export-led, and they realized at that time that they need to change things so their economy is a much more based on internal consumption. And actually, by America doing what they've done, creating a trade war with China, it's actually accelerated and made it easier for China to do that, because the Chinese people are very patriotic. You've only got to look at the rise of Huawei and Chinese brands that just show you, that China will support their own brands, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. This is exactly what Trump is trying to do in America, get Americans to support American brands, but unfortunately much of the manufacturing in America is just not competitive anymore. And in fact, there was a report out just today, I will put a link to that report if I remember down below, that actually says that the tariffs and the trade war are actually harming many American businesses and consumers. China have a very long history of a proud civilization. They were humbled in the 19th and 20th century by the Western countries, and I think they will never again be subject to exploitation, control and humiliation of those times. China are now stronger than they have been for hundreds of years, and I think the bottom line is that America just need to get used to that. That brings me to the end of another video. If you like the video, please give us a thumbs up, it really helps us. If you like the content in general of the channel, please hit that subscribe button. If you want to know when we got a new video released straight away, hit those bells. But for now, take care.